WADR, promoting dialogue. It's midday in Dakar. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. This is Newslink. First, the headlines. Reactions trailed Senegalese President Sall's decision not to seek re-election in 2024.
And I think that is a victory for democracy, for the constitution, and also for the model that people who is in the power must respect to the constitution.
Gambians express anger following the purchase of 58 vehicles for parliament members.
Well, the National Assembly members who are supposed to be representative of the people are taking such a move. People are dying every day. Cost of living is on the increase.
And you, the people, will be paying for these expensive vehicles, even though most of you have never owned a brand new car, and you will never own one.
Guinea's Minister of Justice and FNDC leaders received judgment in landmark case, and Mauritania to receive $87 million IMF loan to fund its economic reform program. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Imoh Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us. Senegalese President Macky Sall will not run for another term in office in the coming elections in 2024. The anticipation of President Sall's potential bid for re-election has sparked bouts of unrest since 2021, resulting in the loss of numerous lives. His Monday declaration, experts say, has ended the widespread speculation that he would seek a third term, which, according to his critics, would have been illegal. Madasi completes the story.
The Senegalese populace has anxiously awaited this day for quite some time, and after a prolonged period of anticipation, President Macky Sall finally revealed his decision on Monday. It is worth noting that President Sall is currently serving his final term in office.
My long and carefully considered decision is not to be a candidate in the next elections on February 25, 2024, even if the Constitution gives me the right to do so.
As soon as the announcement was made, reactions poured in from all directions. The Senegalese Democratic Party, led by former President Abdoulaye Wade, lauded President Macky Sall's bold decision in a press release. On social media platforms, members of civil society and political figures also expressed their thoughts on the president's choice. Idrissa Seck, the runner-up in the 2019 presidential election, congratulated President Sall on his Facebook page. Likewise, former Prime Minister Abdoulaye expressed his emotional response to the president's speech, acknowledging Sall's determination to lead the country resolutely for the remainder of his term.
From here, the transfer of power to the next president, I will assume with responsibility and fairness all the duties that fall within the scope of my function. I will continue to devote all my energies to defending the constitutional institutions of the Republic, respect for the decisions of justice, the integrity of the territory, and the protection of people and property.
Internationally, the Senegalese president's decision not to seek another term, expert says, has been met with widespread acclaim. ECOWAS President Umaru Sissoco Embalo commended the decision as courageous and democratic, reflecting the positive reception from various quarters on the international scene.
Martise reporting there. Let's cross over now to the Gambia, where the citizens have expressed rage after National Assembly members bought 58 vehicles for their official use. Each vehicle costs $2.5 million, or its equivalent of $39,000, an amount sections of the public deemed extravagant. The Assembly bought 58 vehicles from CFO. 47 vehicles have already been delivered to the National Assembly. WADR's Banjul correspondent Uncle Janko has more details in this report.
According to the Office of the Clerk of the Parliament, each member will pay 50% of the cost of the vehicles, while the taxpayers will pay the other 50%. However, this did not go down well with sections of the public who argue that the money could have been spent on a dilapidated health sector.
This country is sinking by a day. Well, the National Assembly members who are supposed to be representative of the people are taking such a move. People are dying every day. Cost of living is on the increase. I think this could be better prioritized to create employment opportunities, to at least buy like dialysis machines in our hospitals, to at least save more lives and reduce the maternal mortality.
Purchasing of the vehicle for the lawmakers at the time was wrong at a huge amount of money, given the fact that there's an economic hardship in this country.
Alhaji Barrow is a political commentator, and he was less pleased with the plans of parliament members.
And you, the people, will be paying for these expensive vehicles, even though most of you have never owned a brand new car, and you will never own one. But people who claim to be working for you and whose salaries you pay for are also forcing you to buy them cars, brand new cars at that, costing millions of dollars. Your representatives tell you that you are sovereign citizens and that power belongs to you. What a joke. Power only belongs to you on paper.
However, the Deputy Clerk of the National Assembly, Khalifa Mbai, claims Parliament should have been commended instead of all the criticism. According to him, NAM shall pay 50% of the price over a 5-year period with an interest. Honorable Lajimbo is a National Assembly member for Upper Salom, and he defends their action on the purchasing of the vehicles.
Half is going to be paid by the Parliament and half going to be paid by the member. And the members actually have already started paying 1 year in advance. There are more vehicles in the other co-equals of government. But nobody is saying anything about those things. And those institutions, the purchase is outright. Fuel is also paid for. The maintenance of the vehicle is paid from the coffers.
After 5 years of thorough comparative studies with other jurisdictions, a scheme was adopted to finance the procurement of a mobility project for NAMS at a reasonable cost through a supplier at a yearly installment period of 5 years. The members claim the total cost of the entire project is not necessarily purchased, but to be financed for a period of 5 years. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Sankola Jenko reporting from Banjul.
Meanwhile, the Gambia Immigration Department, GID, has released the alleged 63 intending migrants who were recently arrested at Batangkunku village in the west coast region of the Gambia. The 63 intended migrants reportedly planned to embark on an irregular journey to the Canary Islands. Among the released intended migrants includes 44 Senegalese, Gambians, and Bissau Guinean. The public relations officer of the Gambia Immigration Department, Mamandi Diba, spoke to our Bonjo correspondent on the development. Mr. Diba began explaining how his officers raided the area before arresting the said intended migrant.
It all happened last weekend when our migration management officers, raided a hideout somewhere in Batangkunku in the West Coast region. And in that exercise, some intended migrants were arrested in the course of planning to go to the Canary Islands through the high seas. Actually, the number was 63, majority of them non-Gambians. But of course, there were 17 Gambians and a Bissau Guinean among the lot.
I understand there were also Senegalese?
Yes, Senegalese. They were in the majority, in fact.
Okay. Can we approximately the number? Do you know the number, sir?
About 40 something, yes. Okay. Because, yes.
Okay.
40 something, yeah.
Yeah. So I understand. What is the whereabouts of these people now? Where are they?
These people, they were taken to the Migration Management Center in Tangier, where they were processed, and some investigations were conducted on them. And after all that is done, they were released onto their families.
That was the public relations officer of the Gambia Immigration Department, Mamandi Diba.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's cross over now to Nigeria, where President Bola Tinubu made a move towards addressing the country's security concerns by convening his first meeting with the service chiefs and the newly appointed National Security Advisor. During the gathering held at the presidential villa in Abuja, the nation's capital, President Tinubu issued a directive emphasizing the prioritization of national security and the imperative to combat all forms of crime and criminality prevailing across the country. WADR's Abuja correspondent Usman Umar reports.
During the meeting, President Tinubu emphasized the crucial importance of interagency collaboration and synergy in combating the prevalent security threats across the nation. He underscored the necessity of adopting a proactive approach to address insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, and other criminal activities that have inflicted pain and suffering on innocent citizens. President Tinubu urged the service chiefs and the newly appointed National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu to develop robust strategies and mechanisms that would ensure the protection of lives and properties. He reaffirmed the commitment to providing all necessary support and resources required by the security agencies to effectively carry out their duties. In response, the service chiefs and the National Security Advisor expressed their determination and commitment to the task ahead. They assured President Tinubu that they would work tirelessly to safeguard Nigerians and secure the nation from all forms of threats and criminal activities.
He gave us the assurance that he is with us 100%. He told us that we must work as a team and there is a work to be done. He will expect us to deliver, and we are grateful for the opportunity. That's why we are here. And you can see already things are improving in our country. If you see the record of crimes and activities of the criminals, it's going down. It will continue to go down. We will secure this place.
The inaugural meeting between President Tinubu, the service chiefs, and the National Security Advisor is widely regarded as a significant step towards addressing Nigeria's security challenges. Given President Tinubu's extensive political leadership experience and his strong focus on national security, there is a renewed hope that the country will witness notable improvement in its security landscape. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar, reporting from Abuja.
Thousands of Burkinabe citizens took to the street over the weekend, rallying in the capital city of Ouagadougou and various administrative regions. In a show of solidarity with the military government, they voiced their support by demanding the urgent drafting of a new constitution for the country. This call echoes the early appeal made by the National Coordination of Civil Society Organizations of Burkina Faso. Some experts have suggested that the inspiration behind this push for a new constitution in Burkina Faso may stem from the recent constitutional referendum in Mali. Yusuf Ouattara, Burkinabe governance analyst, says addressing numerous other pressing issues should take precedence over the pursuit of a new constitution.
Yes, indeed. During the Saturday demonstration, we saw demonstrators, basically the youth, who were demanding and calling for a new constitution. I should be reminded that the demonstration was meant to support the militaries and also the transition government after the death of tens of militaries. So it was a little bit surprising to see this political agenda, because a new constitution is a political agenda. It was not the purpose of the demonstration.
Right. So you, as a citizen, you know how the country's situation is. Do you think a new constitution is necessary for the current administration?
Yeah, it is necessary, but now it's not the priority. I think the priority is security. The priority is to secure the villages and the countryside, to get people back in their locality, because the current constitution is still under effect, and for me it's working because this insecurity is going to change a lot of things. So I think it's after that we set up security that now we will know what to put in a new constitution. Probably for a new constitution, this will call for a change in the electoral system and many things, actually, because I think after this war, it's the rebuilding of the nation.
Yusuf Ouattara is a Burkinabe governance expert. Meanwhile, in Guinea, the Dixon Court of First Instance on Monday announced their verdict regarding the case involving the Minister of Justice and Human Rights, Alfonso Charles Wright, and several leaders of the National Front for the Defense of the Constitution, FNDC. The court, however, says it lacks jurisdiction to pass judgment on the case and referred the FNDC to pursue further legal recourse. The leaders of the FNDC are taking legal action against the Minister of Justice and Human Rights, accusing him of slanderous denunciation, defamation, public insult, violence and assault and abuse of authority. Ogyobierika has details in this report by Conakry correspondent General Alpha Ibrahim Abaude.
The Dixon Court of First Instance has decided to refer the FNDC Alphonse Charles Wright case to the Appeals Court, as it has declared itself lacking jurisdiction. This verdict did not come as a surprise to the defense lawyer Maître Lancinet Sila. However, the lawyers representing the civil party were dissatisfied with this decision. As a result, Mr. Salifou Bivoge has initiated another case, this time before the Supreme Court and the High Council of the Judiciary. In response, the Minister of Justice and Human Rights, Alphonse Charles Wright, promptly announced his intention to take legal action against both the civil parties and the lawyer Salifou Bivoge. The Minister of Justice emphatically maintains that the FNDC has no legal standing. He firmly asserts that it does not deserve his attention and he has no intention of giving it any consideration.
Ogubirika voiced a report filed by Conakry correspondent Cherno Alpha Ibrahima Baude. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar. Here is a reminder of the top stories. Reactions trail Senegalese President Sall's decision not to seek re-election in 2024. Gambians express anger following the purchase of 58 vehicles for parliament members. Guinea's Minister of Justice and FNDC leaders received judgment in landmark case. And still ahead, Mauritania to receive $87 million IMF loan to fund its economic reform program. We also have a guest interview segment, a press review, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio.
It's 15 minutes past the top of the hour. Civil society organization One Ghana Movement has called for justice and compensation for the victims of the June 3 fire and flood disasters. On June 3, 2015, torrential rainfall, which affected most parts of the country, flooded the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. Reports indicate that fuel leakage from the Goil service station in the area and a fire from a cigarette stop caused a devastating fire, which combined with the flood killed at least 154 people. Hundreds of others suffered severe burns in the unfortunate incident. WADR's Atirin Bela Lawson in Accra has the remaining details.
On the 8th anniversary of one of Ghana's most catastrophic tragedies, the One Ghana Movement has restated its demand for justice on behalf of the victims of the flood and fire disasters that occurred on June 3. Throughout the years, the group has been advocating for fair compensation for the victims and has taken legal action by filing a class action lawsuit against Ghana Oil Limited, the owners of the fuel station, the National Petroleum Authority, the regulatory body, and the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, AMA, citing their involvement in the disaster. During this year's commemorative events, Senor Hosi, one of the leaders of the movement, urged the government to go beyond mere lip service and fulfill their promises of justice, compensation and support for the victims, many of whom are currently facing challenging circumstances.
As expected, authorities trooped in to this very space and on the streets, promising as usual to bring perpetrators to book. No one has been held accountable for this very avoidable disaster. The government of the day and the government today have all but paid lip service to justice, accountability, and commensurate compensation for victims.
Reflecting on the impact of the incident, Stephen Akurugu, a 20-year-old victim who lost both his parents to the flood and fire, shared with WADR how his life has been irreversibly altered since the tragic event.
I only get food to eat when I go to the traffic light to beg for money. Many people do not give me money there. Some of them sack me when I get closer to their cars. Some of them think I am wearing a mask. A man once told me to go and look for a job and stop wearing the mask. A lot of people tell me that.
As the court case progresses, the One Ghana movement remains hopeful that the pursuit of justice will not only lead to fair compensation for the victims and their families, but also result in appropriate punishment for officials found responsible for the disaster. Reporting for Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Atiewin Imbila Lawson in Accra.
Mauritania will see a boost to its economic reform program as the International Monetary Fund (IMF) on Monday approved an $86.7 million loan to the country. According to the Mauritanian news agency, the fund said that the decision will allow the immediate disbursement of $21.7 million to Mauritania, while the rest of the amount will be disbursed over a period of 42 months. The statement said that the economic reform program implemented by the Mauritanian authorities with IMF support included a set of comprehensive policies. These policies aim to gradually reduce debt and fluctuations in extractive industry revenues, protect social spending, develop money and foreign exchange markets, strengthen inflation control, and ensure greater flexibility for the Mauritanian economy in the face of external shocks. According to the same source, the loan will also contribute to human capital development, poverty reduction, and private sector growth. According to official data, about 31% of Mauritania's 4 million people live below the poverty line.
This is the newspaper review. Stay on top of the news. Get the most important stories with added insight and concise review.
This is the newspaper review.
Here is now Darlington Popper with the newspaper review.
We have of us the Front Page Africa newspaper, the News newspaper, the New Democrat newspaper, and the Hot Pepper newspaper. We start the review process with the Front Page Africa newspaper that says Bouakai risks arrest, and we see the photograph of the standard bearer of the Unity Party, who happens to be former Vice President Joseph Imoh Bouakai, the main contender to President George Weah in the ensuing October 10, 2023 general and presidential elections. Still on the front page, government to produce evidence today. We see the photograph of imprisoned former Chief Justice Gloria Mususka surrounded here by her lawyers, and the photograph of the deceased Chala Musu. On the back page of the Front Page Africa newspaper is all about sports. The New Democrat newspaper is reporting Minister Ruth Coca-Collins lies. Fast checkers counter her assertion. Criminal Court C requests Foreign Ministry to facilitate return of Indian defendants for prosecution. On the back page, police evades payments of government funds. Liberia launches fast-checking network. The news newspaper is next. Weah visits holy sites in Israel. Praise for Liberia. We will deliver one round. Bouakai's campaign chairperson vows. Let's take a gist of the story. Barely a day after she was named the national campaign chairperson for former Vice President Joseph Imoh Bouakai's rescue team, Grand Bassa County Senator Yombli Kanga Lawrence has vowed to deliver. In a Facebook post Monday, July 3, 2023, the Embattled Liberty Party political leader said, "We were appointed yesterday as campaign chairperson for the rescue mission, and we promised to deliver one round. Thanks to Ambassador Joseph Imoh Bouakai, our standard bearer and rescue one, for the appointment of the great team," she said. We will leave it right there on the back page of the New Democrat newspaper. Jetty rescues injured blind man following hit-and-run accident. From the news newspaper, the Hot Pepper newspaper is now our last stop for today's edition of Press Review. At Holy Site in Jerusalem, President Weah offers prayers for Liberia. We see the photograph of President George Weah. Liberia's closest traditional bilateral partner. Government describes United States of America on 247th Independence Anniversary. On the back page, National Teachers Association county presidents get motorbikes. Protesters, Anthony Thomas called on government to probe RICO company's chemical pollution. Aggrieved residents of the car wash community in Mount Barclay recently seized the entrance of the RICO Beverages Company, calling on the government in order to compel the company to swiftly address the air pollution in the area. This is no political, this is a national emergency call. Our people in the car wash community are dying slowly because of the chemical pollution from the company. That is how we love to conclude today's edition of Press Review. But before we go, these are the newspapers we actually followed on today's edition. We followed the front page Africa newspaper, the New Democrat newspaper, the News newspaper, and the Hot Pepper newspaper was our last stop. On that note, thank you so much for following, and bye-bye.
Indeed, many thanks, Ellington Popper, for the newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, let's take you back to our first story on the announcement of the Senegalese President Macky Sall not to run in next year's elections. Speaking to WADR, Abdulaziz Sisse, advocacy assistant at Africtivist, says it's a welcome development and will now set the ball rolling for the preparation of the elections.
We have been waiting for several months for this declaration, and yesterday yesterday night, President Macky Sall has finally released a declaration to the Senegalese people, and the main point is that he wants to run for another term, and I quote him, and he said that he will give the power to his successor peacefully in terms of open and fair election. And I think that is a victory for democracy, for the constitution, and also for the model that people who is in the power must keep on their word, must respect their word, must respect the constitution and the democracy. And the other aspect that people don't mention in their reaction is the struggle did by the civil society organizations, political parties, and a large party of Senegalese people to make him to avoid for this third term. And I think it is a good news for Africa, for West Africa, first of all, and for Africa in a general scope.
What about the oppositions? How do you think they will receive this message? Aside the fact that there are also issues surrounding the sentencing of Sonko, and issues that we have had to deal with, in the last couple of months. How do you think they will receive this message?
For the opposition parties in general, there are so many dissensions, so many controversies between them. So there are a radical part of the opposition. There are a moderate part, and there are so many parties in the opposition. But in the whole scope, they all tell that this declaration is good for democracy. They magnify it. They magnify this declaration, these wise decision of the President Macky Sall. But there is one part, the part of Ousmane Sonko's. Yeah. So those people, say that we have to be careful with the decision, because Macky Sall has been so many times in the past released the declaration, and he did not respect his word. We have to be careful. And there are so many. The Senegalese people received the message differently. There was some congratulation to the decision, which is a sign of keeping our words and respecting the country. But in the other part, people tell that it's a political subterfuge. Ousmane Sonko and his militant say that it's a political subterfuge, and we have to be careful about it.
How do you think this election will play out, knowing that just few months to the general polls, there hasn't been any announcement by the ruling coalition of who will succeed the president or who will be the front runner, of the coalition? How do you think this will play out, or what should we be expecting in the coming month?
Yeah. So yesterday he declared yesterday that he wants to run for a third term.
Yeah.
We will see what will happen for the next days.
Okay.
So the thing is, the evidence, the thing that people will not doubt about it is there will be struggle in his and in his coalition.
Abdulaziz Sese is advocacy assistant at Affectives. And in sport news, the journey to next year's Total Energy CAF Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 and the CAF Women's Champions League Cote d'Ivoire 2023 qualifiers will begin in Rabat on Wednesday and Thursday when CAF conducts the draws for the two competitions, CAF has reported. The draw for the CAF Women's Champions League will be on Wednesday, July 5 at 1800 hours local time on CAF digital platforms and CAF TV partners. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Chris Amukuti for the technical support. I am Imoh Eden. Good afternoon.
News, talk, music, get it all 24 hours on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar.
Monday to Sunday.
It's hard to explain, okay? But
all day. All